Hello guys, welcome to Malbers VFX. Today we'll be looking at the extensive Malbers animation asset called Horse AnimSet Pro, which includes the awesome Animal Controller. Now this title could definitely be misleading because it's much more than just an Animal Controller. The Animal Controller is just a component which make any humanoid rig to extensive and flexible controller in your hand. So it's really suitable for both any humanoid character, but especially also for animals as well. There are so many things you can do with this asset. It has an extensive documentation on his GitHub. I'll leave a link in the description as well. And also check out the demo scenes. There's tons of features in there. So you both have the Animal Controller and the Horse AnimSet Pro. You have everything from mobile to ragdoll to AI sample to a first-person shooter. So you really have a lot of demos in here. You should definitely test those out. And it goes both for the Animal Controller and the Horse AnimSet Pro. Now, to be honest, this tutorial is as much as for myself to be able to go back and use it as a reference because it's so extensive. There's so many things. So I can only say that I'll be covering a few things here, the most basic ones, such as replacing a character, replace a weapon, how to add animation, scriptable ammos, transform player, input controls, the damageables, and HIT FX. Currently we are at demo scene riding combat 2 inventory. You can see at the basic movement inputs. This is exactly as you will expect. The WASD key, space for jumps, E to interact with things, and then you can use 1 or 2 key to sprint, run fast, F to glide, F is also for mounting any animals, and of course you can roll and crouch with Q and C. The main component here is the Animal Controller component here. This one, right? So if you expand that, you'll see it's very extensive. There's a lot of things in here. We'll go through the basics. So on general you will find such things as his colliders, his pivot, his movement. This is also on the movement. This is where you set the ground. So if you have a layer on your ground, you will actually put that in here as well. And then you can also adjust with the gravity and strafing. So that's under this general, and then of course movement, right? Then you have the different states. And these states are related to his animator. These are all the states you can see, the animation states here. So fly, glide, wall run, def, everything is related to this. And these are already covered extensively in the documentation, and there's a tutorial for many of them. So please go see those. Those are the states, so how we'll interact. For example, if you took the def, open that, then go into the def, you can see how he will react. So this is also here where you will be able to change your animations or modify them and such. Now, then you have the modes. So the modes are everything from taking damage, the attacks, blocks, action, for example, emos. So if you want to make custom animations to play, if you press a specific key, you can do that. So modes is another kind of states where it goes in and actually can override it. On the advance here, there's a rotator we will be seeing when we replace place the controller with our own character. This is where our pivot point from which point he will actually be able to rotate from. Then you have this rigid body, the animator set up here as well. Speeds, you can click on each one of them, and then you have additional options down here for general and speeds, the index numbers for them, the root motion, lock speed, and so on. Events, here you can also go in, of course, and set on the events what's going to happen. So it comes with a powerful event system as well. And then debug. If you want to debug anything, you have the option here as well for that. Now the stats, that's his health controller basically. So on every Animal Controller, it comes with a stats and a damageable. The stats is the one where it gives you the health and gonna be subtract from, and this is also where you're gonna hook up on the events. On the health empty, this will be where you can hook up the def states. So that if he dies, that will be in here. You put that up with the events as well. So that's mainly what I use the stats for. And the damageable component, this is where you need to be able to have this component on every game object that needs to be able to take damage from Animal Controller setup. Damageable here, you have the surface, and we're going to talk about these later on. These are scriptable assets where you can go in and define which kind of surface ID each game object has. So you can use this to generate specific custom animations such as HIT FX and sounds. And then of course the default reaction, what's going to happen when he get hit, that's also in here. And this is also linked to events. So on receiving damage, you can also hook up specific hit animations in here as well. The aim is used for the aiming with your weapons, and comes also with a aim target, not in this one, but on your actual game object. You can use the targets to be able to aim perfectly on them. Transform hook, we'll be talking about that later. This is a really powerful component which in runtime makes your game able to define this and define him as the player target. And whenever he has this, you can hook this up to everything, so they will always be able to find the player by this hook here. So for example, instead of you going and say find game objects with tag player, then you have this scriptable asset as well to do that instead of that. So that's pretty awesome and cool. And of course the weapon manager here, if we go into general, so does he start with a weapon? What is his left hand, right hand? These are the most important things. External, we don't use that. Animal controller, this is here you would set up if he has a combo manager. It's built up so in the animal controller or the game object, this is where you have all the main components on it, but underneath you have these subcomponents. So internal components, if you highlight that, you'll see you have your combo manager, and this is where you have your hooks, your combo manager, attack triggers, sounds, log on target. Everything is basically put under internal components. You have the main mesh, and you have the character transform here as well. So a lot of those things will go in here. Again, events, what happens with when you're equipped with the weapon, and of course you animate as well, and you can also debug this. Now let's go and see if we can change our character here with our own custom one. So let's see here, our character here. Let's put him on the position 0, 0, 0. Go ahead and find him, and then let's see here. Let's take in a character here from the proto factor assets. This guy here, but we don't want the ragdoll version, so we take the other one here and drag him into the scene as well. I'm just gonna get rid of his weapons. Okay, so let's see how we can set this up. So for him, let's make him a child of the right as a main component up here, like so, and then zero him out here. So now they are on top of each other here. That's pretty cool. Then let's go up to the rider here, right click, and then prefab, unpack completely, and do the same thing with the other one. Prefab, unpack completely, like so. And let's see up here, avatar, remember this SK Elite Trooper. So go in and remove this animator controller, like so, and go up to this one, make the new avatar, go over and change the avatar, SK Elite Trooper avatar, this one. Remember, this is the mesh from the original one, so let's just hide that for now. And now we're going to the rider again and go into the animal controller, go to advanced, and then the rotator. Remember, it's set here right now, but the root bone we want from our elite trooper here. So take this root bone, put it in here to the weapon manager on the advanced inputs, general. This left hand, right hand is still on the previous one. So go down and find our right hand here, put it on the right hand, and left hand, put it here. Let's make a quick test right now. And remember, we have to enable this one for now. So jump, run, double jump, and can he fly as well? And he flies. That's pretty cool. Now, the interesting part comes when we pick up a weapon. Go to his weapon inventory here. Let's put a weapon inside our weapon inventory on the start weapon to test out if he holds the weapon correctly. So go to your assets, Malbers Animations, under common, scripts, and then you have weapons, and on the weapons there's prefabs. We have all of these different weapons you can choose on. I'll just drag in the rifle, put it on the start weapon here, and let's test it out. And he's holding the weapon. If I right click, it moves away from the weapon. Now if I right click, it's gonna zoom in on the target if I get near. So these targets you see up here, aim, it snaps up to a target, and if I hit it, if I hit the horse, they're reacting as well. Q to roll. So the weapon definitely works. Pretty cool. Okay, so that works. Now let's look at how we can actually replace that gun. Okay, so replace a weapon. So inside your Malbers animation, you have these animal controller, horse AnimSet Pro, and common. In the common, this is where you have all the different cool components Malbers gives you. So we go into the scripts again, and then under weapons, scripts, prefabs. Let's take this rifle here, because depending on which weapon you want to replace. Let's say we want to replace this one. So I'm gonna make a duplicate, and remember, by the way, make duplicate of most things in here. So this rifle here, and I'm gonna rename it as well. Rifle Harrow, so I know that's mine. Let's just put it somewhere in the scene, maybe up here, like so. And now let's find our own weapon we want to replace it with. There's a written tutorial in the documentation on how to create a weapon from scratch, a melee weapon and so on. But I find it's much easier just duplicate one and just replace the mesh with your own, okay? So, but definitely look into that if you want that. So I'm just gonna go into my Cincy models here, and let's see, prefabs. Let's get a weapon here. Let's choose this one. Guns. Let's see if we can find something suitable. Yeah, I think I want this one. So again, I'll make a duplicate here as well on this one. And this one here. Let's see if we can open up the prefab on this one. Now if we inspect this, on this main one, you have the shootable component. And if you're using any component, only game object you want to be able to shoot with, you have to have this shootable on. And it has a bullet here in the projectile. So let's see, the actual mesh for the rifle seems to be here. So if we can put that and parent it at this place, so let's see, bring on our weapon, like so. And for this weapon, we'll also, it's zeroed out already. If we can bring that up now to here, and then just adjust it. So it's roughly around the original place. Okay, we created our weapon. I'm just gonna put it over here. So first of all, let's try to bring in the weapon. This one here, we just drag it in, this rifle here, into his start weapon. On his weapon, remember to set the layer for item, and then do that for all the children as well. So this new weapon will have all the children here will have the layer of item. Okay, and then on the player itself, we'll drag in our weapon here. Now if you need to adjust your weapon, for some reason if you need to adjust your weapon, it's not perfectly aligned, then while you're still in play mode, you will of course go down to your weapon, highlight it here, and then you will adjust it with the position here. So you can just use these to position it as you want. And when you have done that, then you right click, copy the position, go down to your hand and holster, then right click on the position and you just say paste, and do the same thing up here with the rotation. Here you say copy layer ilio angles, go down, right click, rotation, and then paste it in here. And once you have pasted in here, you'll go up to the shootable while you're still in play mode, and then you go in and say copy component. Then you go out of play mode and then just say paste component values, and that should fix that. How to make this weapon pickable? Right now it's just there, but he cannot pick it up, so we need to actually add in a pickable game object to this. So just do this pickable component, add that to it. Now as everything else with this great asset here, and if you need to learn stuff, you need to look at the stuff that's already been pre-made, right? So we go into the comments again. Let's go into scripts. We want to make this weapon pickable. Let's learn from an already pickable object that's already written for us. So we go down to weapons, prefabs, collectibles, and let's just take this rifle here, put that here. Okay, to make this pickable, basically I'm just gonna copy the settings from this one here. So let's just adjust our box collider first here. That's okay for now. And basically let's just go in and copy the pickable component here. Copy component and put it up on our rifle here. Paste component as new, like so. Then this on focus here, we need to set our own on focus. I just copied this and made it a child of our rifle Harrow here. And these ones you can leave as it is, but go back to general. Make sure that you use your own rigid body, this one, and remove these. You only want your own box collider, and everything else should be pretty much the same. And remember on here to set the game object set active. So now there should be a little pretext when we get near the weapon. We try it out. And here it is. Press E to pick the rifle. And there it is. Pretty cool. Now for the weapon itself, if you go to the shootable, it has this weapon data here you need to look at. So the holster, you can see this is where you can holster on the back of your character, where you can unequip it. It has a specific ID numbers here as well. This is index, so if you create a new one, if you duplicate this weapon, it's important that you'll go up here and you're gonna hit the generate button to generate a new number. And the hit layer here, it's also important that you duplicate this hit layer will go and see what exactly this weapon can hit. So if you click on the hit layer, you can see it can hit everything that has the layer of default, animal, and item. If we go back to the weapon and go down to, let's see here, shootable, here, the ammo. So right now it has these two, ammo and chamber and total ammo. So you can change the values here, and if you click this, there's also scriptable asset here, where you can go and duplicate this, which I will highly recommend. Duplicate it and then make your own values in here, especially if you're using different kinds of ammo. So this one is our own custom one, right? We just made our own custom weapon, so you should definitely go in and just duplicate it and then make a new one and just drag it into this specific weapon here. So you have that amount of bullets you want, for example. So that's how you do the scriptable ammo. Now if we look at the rider itself, the transform hook here, right now he has the hook of player, okay? So that means everything from the camera to the enemies that would be looking at this will be looking at the player target. And if you look at this, there's different hooks here. So if I change from player to, let's say, new player, we can also go in and create a whole new one from the beginning. So just add a transform hook. When I do that, it's gonna go and reference the actual game object himself here, okay? And then of course on the hook you're gonna create a new one. It's a transform asset. We just call this test hook and save it. So now he has the hook called test hook. Now in order for the AI to actually detect us, we need to go up to the AI under component. It has a component called AI, and these are the states. These are definitely how the AI works with a Malbers Animal Controller. And to be honest, I'm not using the enemy AIs in here, so I'm still sticking to my Blaze AI engine or Emerald AI 2024. Those are the two main AI engines I use at the moment. But it's pretty interesting how these states and decision trees are. It's almost like some sort of behavior tree. This works, but it can be quite challenging to know how to use it. There is definitely a learning curve here, but basically these states here, it's in the current state, it would be looking for the player. So if you go in and say look for the player, and the player is set to this transform player, so we need to change that to our new hook that we set up, which we called test hook in here. And when he decision here, so here's the state, look for player, and here's the task within this state, and here's the decision. So it means whenever he sees the player, whenever the player becomes visible, this test hook here, then it will become true. And if it becomes true, it's going to go to this state here. And if it's false, then it's going to do nothing. So if it comes true, it's going to go to the bow attack state. So we click on that. Then it has these tasks here, stop and draw, aim to hit. And here, aim to hit, you also need to change the target variable to our test hook. Okay? When you have that in place, now we should be able to use this new hook here instead of the player, the old one. So let's make a fly journey over there. Yep, now he's aiming at us. So that's pretty cool. Now you may wonder why, while he's shooting the arrows, while we're not taking any damage. That's pretty easy. If we go in and look at our player here, the rider, look at his layer, it says to ignore raycast. So if we just change that to animal, say no this object only, and play, now we're taking damage. And the arrows are sticking to us. Pretty cool. And why is that? That's because of the hit layer. You remember those? So if we go up to Steve again, and look at his weapon manager, the bow collectible, this one, here, on the general, on the bow, you go down to layer, and here you can see which layer is gonna hit. So ours was ignore raycast, that's why we could not take damage. Pretty easy. Now let's look at the MDamagable and HIT FX. So here I create a cube, a simple cube. I want to test it out by creating two different cubes with two different hit surfaces effects, okay? So for anything to be able to take damage from Animal Controller, you need to add the MDamagable. When you do that, it's gonna add a stat and an MDamagable, right? These are the two main components it's gonna add. If we go into the stat, we have a health of 100. Okay, so let's lock this down. Let's go to our player and ensure that he has the gun from the beginning, rifle here. And while you're at the rifle, let's see what the damage layer, it says hit layer here. Click on that. On this hit layer, we say we can damage anything that's called default, animal, and hit. So you can just duplicate this if you want, rename it cube, let's say it like that. Go back to your rifle, and on your hit layer, just drag in your new hit layer here, cube, like so. And then I'm going and let's add something here. We just say object. We'll add that to this hit layer. Cool. Now go back to the cube, change it to object. Now, if we look at the stats and in play mode, let's try to hit the cube. Look at the health here. Let's shoot at the cube. You see 85, 70, 40, 25, and 10, and 0. Now disable the health component here. So now it should be dead, right? If we go back to the weapon, go to damage right now, it says minimum 15 and maximum 15. So on this one, let's just say 25, so we know exactly what it's shooting with, right? And if you notice also, whenever it took damage, it showed get hit UI, take damage UI. So that's because every health stat here is linked to the same UI. So we need to change that as well. So if you go into the cube again and under events, and it's this one, on change health, it's gonna play this UF health stat. So basically you can just either make a new one, or for this case just disable it. Also when the health is here on health empty, you can just take the cube and game object, set it up to false. Let's test it out. So we're hitting it, it says 75, 50, 25, there, now it's gone. Okay, that's only if you want to destroy it like that. So go into the damageable. Now we know that every object can have a damageable on and a health stat. Now let's look at these services. Right now if we click on this, it says flesh. So we want to change this here in the flesh. Let's just duplicate that and call it cube 1, for example, and duplicate that as well and say cube 2. Now as you can see, both of them have an ID of 1, and it's important that they don't have the same IDs. You see flesh has 1, so you need to change this ID here, and you do that by go up to the cube 1, for example, right click up here and set get ID. It changes to 8. Do the same with cube number 2, right click, get ID. Now go up to a cube, give it a new ID. Just look through quickly through these ID numbers. So cube 1 will give it a, I'm just gonna give an ID of 120, and cube 2 121. So cube 1, cube 2. Okay, the cool thing is, if you don't know which ID numbers you have in your game, Malbers give you an awesome tool to look at that. You can go up to tools, Malbers animation, and then show all IDs. You'll get this window up here, and then you can just go to stats, look at the IDs here, tags, stances, modes, states. Everything has a unique index and ID numbers in here. That's a cool way to have an overview of that. Now while you have this cube, I'm cube 2. Now go into your cube again, and let's give it let's call this cube 1. Okay, so this is cube 1. Duplicate this one, and this one will give cube 2. So this one has cube 1 service, and this one has cube 2 service ID. Okay, cool. Now go into your weapon, damage, into extras. This is where your bullet will hit, where I want to go and look at what it's going to interact with. So hit effect. On the hit effects, open this one. So if you hit anything under these elements, let's check cube 1. If you cube 1, then you need to go in and change this from global to use local, and then you can basically just go in and drag in a prefab, a hit prefab, or whatever you want. So for this sake, I'm just gonna choose green for this one, and let's add another one. On this one, we'll choose cube 2, and let's check yellow instead. Yellow explosion. So when we hit anything that has a damageable component on it, and it has the service ID of cube 1 service ID, it should it should generate this green blood explosion. And the same thing with another cube. If it has the cube ID of the cube 2 surface ID, it should generate this hit effect called yellow blood explosion. Let's go back and test that out. Okay, so let's test this one first. Green blood, dead. Yellow blood, dead. It works. That's how cool it is. So you can create some really cool hit effects and also, of course, some sound effects doing this way. Okay, so that's pretty cool. That was the damageable and also the hit effects. Aiming and target. So as you see, when we have this target component on the targets, then it's gonna snap. Look at the cursor. When I move up, it snaps. The same here. And then you can always hit your enemies, okay? So we want that to also work on this creature here. So right now, when I right-click the mouse and aim at it, I want it to snap. As always, I refer to one of the already built-in components to see how the things are built up. So I see it has a mesh collider. We need a collider to be able to hit on. It has an aim target, an interactable, and a tags. And the tags are just called target. You can define different target names here. This is a pretty cool component since you can have multiple tags on one game object. For the aim target, it's gonna aim at the target transform. Now if we look at this creature here, this creature has its transform at the bottom here. So what we want to do first is right click, create an empty, just call it aim transform, like so. And then let's move this up to right about the middle here. So this will be where we will aim at. Let's add the components, tags, and it's called target for this one, and let's also have a aimed target. So instead of the hydra transform, let's put in the aim transform, like so. We want aim assist, use on trigger enter, and let's see what else. The interactable. So if we look again, this component up here, we can see that on interact with and then int, it has a lot of different variables here. It has the coins, the target aim, different zones. We're just interested in this target aim and the target here. Let's go build that up. So in the events, let's see here, if we go back and reference to this one here, it has a Unity tools, utilities. So let's just copy this one here, go to the Hydra and say paste component as new, this one. Now, if we go to the events, and if we can bring that up here, back to Unity utilities and destroy component, this one, and bring in your aim target, so it's going to destroy it afterwards, okay? Now, we need one more here, and this one will be the lock on target. So if we go lock this, if we go here and say lock on targets, this one, bring it in, and it's a game object, item remove, this one, run game object item remove, and we're just going to bring our Hydra down here, as easy as that. Let's check it out. We go to our Hydra. Yeah, you see it's locked on to the transform point, even if I rotate the view here. That's pretty cool. Okay, so that's how that works. Malbers input controls. Okay, so on each component to be able actually to control your animal controller, either your humanoid character or your animal, it has this Malbers input on. This is turned on by default on this character here. That means I can control it. If it's not turned on, then I cannot use my character here. So that's the one that actually controls it, right? If we open up that, you can see it has many properties in here. All of these are linked up to different keys. For example, if you want to jump, it says press the space. If you want to crouch, press the C, and so on. So it gives you a lot of options here. You can create some new custom ones if you want. You can go up and right click on the Malbers input, and then you can say create, and then create a new state if you want here. Or you can just do it manually. Just go down here and just say the plus sign, new, and just give it a name here, an input value, key, and then write whatever you want. So that's pretty cool. So for instance, if you highlight any of these, you get some properties down under. But if you highlight this jump, for example, let's take that one. If you go down to your animal component and then go into state, remember jump is a state, then and you can always look at your animator, go to states, you can see here which states you have, fly, glide, ragdoll, slide, def, swim, fall, jump, and so on. So if you go back here to the controller and highlight jump, you can see that says space bar to jump, right? Now if you go down to your states, you can see you have jump right here. Let's see here, this one. Now, if you open up this properties down here, you can see on the generals that it has an input of jump. So this input, this string name here, corresponds to this string name up here. So when it has that, then it knows it's gonna do exactly that specific operation. Then you can also, of course, tags on the jump. What can I do while it's jumping? Also available on the character controller is this up-down axis control. So on this character is enabled. So if you want to be able to fly, go up and down, then you have to enable this one. Okay. So we disable the Malbers input on him and go over to our wolf character or animal here. So on this wolf right now, if we enable the Malbers input, and if I open up, you can see this one cannot fly, so it has not enabled the up and down. Of course, you can go and create that yourself if you want, but that would be pretty weird to have a flying wolf. But right now, it's the wolf is enabled on the Malbers input. So if we click play, so look what's going to happen. We are still seeing our character and move him around, not the actual wolf, but if I press WASD key, look what's happening. We're actually seeing the wolf is moving. But if I move my mouse, it's the character. How to fix that? It's because of the camera. Go into your character here. On the component selector, we don't want this character to be the camera target anymore. So deselect this one. Go over to your wolf. Camera target is on here. Now let's have a look. Yeah, so now it's the wolf. And again, if you go up to your cameras and disable the aim right and left, then you should have a pretty good third person view. Let's look at it now. This is it. This is exactly what I wanted. So now we're controlling the wolf. That's pretty cool. So let's look at the concept of playing another one specifically instead of just the number 20 here. So right now when we press E key, it says it's gonna go in and play index number 20, which is the howl. So let's say if we want the crawl instead, number 9. So you just change this to number 9. Let's test it out. Then we press the E key. Pretty cool, okay? Press the E key again, it's doing that. So if I go in now and set randomize between these, minus 99, and also on the default 99, let's test it out. E key, yeah, E key again, sitting down, and can we go up and E key again, doing the eat animation, E key again, shake water, E key again. Pretty cool. So you may wonder while it's running that I can press E key while I'm idling or if I'm running, walking, but if I'm jumping or falling, then I cannot use the E key. Why? It's because of the limits. So if we go to the actions again, highlight that, and no matter which ability you choose here, let's just choose drink or howl, drink, then it has these limits here. So general status and limits. This limits here under include, it says include 2 states. So we have an idle and a locomotion. These 2 states mean that you can only use your action key while it's either an idle or in locomotion. Any other states is prohibited, so you cannot use it. That's pretty cool by itself. Animations. So this by itself is a huge concept and there's a lot to it. I cannot cover everything in this because there's too much here, but definitely go look at the documentation. There's a lot already in there covered by Malbers, and he also had a lot of tutorials on it. So let's just dive into it. So as you see here, I've selected the character here, and on the character, if we look at the animator, then if we go down to modes full here, you can see on the modes he has these different damage, block, knock, dodge, unarmed attack, spear, and so on. So if we go over to our character again, and if we say attack 1, this one, we can see on his abilities he has these different ability attacks: right punch, left punch, right kick, and so on. These are the animations when the character is unarmed. If you have the rifle, bow, block, and so on, you need to choose one of the other ones here. But right now it is set to minus 99, so meaning randomize, as we saw earlier. And he's gonna play these different ones here. Now these are also connected up to a combo manager. So under your character, if you open up the internal components, you'll see all of the internal components he has. There's 2 ones we want to focus on this one. It's the combo manager and the attack triggers. So start with the combo manager. If we click that, you will see that under different branches here, so one called unarmed aerial, unarmed, melee, and so on, we want to look at the unarmed. So select that, and it has a mode of attack 1. So while this is selected, you will see this is the combo for that specific unarmed branch here, meaning that it will play this combination of attacks. So in this case, it's gonna go from the first one to ability number 11, which is index numbers, and then from 11 to 1, from 1 to 3, 3 to 8, and 8 to 7. And when you have this clicked on, that means that's the finishing one. That's going to be the last one. So these numbers here are the index numbers, which will find inside the controller. And these ones are the activation time, okay? So that means it's going to search for the playing ability animation, for the range. When it finds the range in there, then it's going to execute it and continue to the next one, to the next sequence. So these index numbers here, go back to your writer here, under attack 1. Then you can see it corresponds to these ones. So these index numbers are the one you will find inside the animator. So if you go into the animator, under modes, you'll see unarmed attack. Let's just focus on this one, so we'll close this down. And if we say the first one here, left hook, remember it doesn't matter which order you put them in. The thing that matters are the transition line numbers, the index numbers. So look at the last ones here, 11, 2, 3, okay? So this left hook here, that's how he's playing the first one. So if we go back to the combo, we can see he's gonna place the first one 11, which is this one. And then he's gonna go from 11 to 1, which is this one, and from 1 to 3. So number 3 is this one. So while you have your combo manager selected, then you can see if you highlight the unarmed, if I click once, it's gonna play the first one, which is a left hook, because that's number 11, and you see it gets highlighted over here. Now, if I click multiple times, you see it goes all the way downwards. Now, if I keep playing, it should go down to the last one. So that's a long combination here. So he ends up, if we go back here, you can see why it ends up with the last one. The last one is number 7, so go down to unarmed attack. And number 7 is this string, this one. So if we double click that, you can see this should be the last one in the combination. Go back to the combo manager. If we say this should be the last one, just set a check mark here. So number 8 will be the last one. And let's see which one is the number 8. That's crouching fist, this one. This should be the last one. So let's test it out. So I will keep pressing. You see, the fist one is the last one. He'll never go back to the kick again. That's how the combo manager works. Now, let's say we want to put in our own animation. Now, Malbers, he provides a really cool animator tool here for that. So it simplifies the whole process for you. I strongly advise that you go in, and of course, before you mess around with the animator, that you go in and change your animator, that you go in and duplicate your animator controller and make your own, just in case if you mess up anything, you can always go back to the original one. So I did that with this one. So let's say we want to add our own. I have a lot of animations here from Protofactor. Let's say I want this animation called Power Right Hand. This one. Let's see how it looks like with our own character. Yeah, so I want this one to be added as part of the unarmed attack here. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna drag it in here. Just gonna copy the name here. Go into your character here. And then under attack 1. Let's add that in here actually. So add number, click the plus sign and Control V to paste that number in here. Then give it another index number. So let's say 12 in this case. 12. Now, Malbers, he gives you an automatic tool for you called Animator Tools, which goes in and make this process much easier for you. So go up to Window, go up to Tools, Malbers Animation, and then Animator Tools. When you have that, I have already docked it up here. Ensure that you have your character selected, and then ensure you have your animation here selected as well. When you have that, you remember we called the index number 12, the number we just gave it over here. So give it an index of 12. Then basically just gonna go in and click all of these buttons here. It's gonna add all the transition for you. When you did that, look at all these lines which came up here. So it made a mode on condition and a mode, and set it to 1012. So this is a unique number. So the only thing tweak you're gonna make here is you look at the other ones, has also one from the entry point. So mode equals 1011. So just drag manually one maximum transition from entry to your new created one, and go to mode equals 1012, like so. Okay. Now if you go back to your combo manager and write the number 12 here instead. Let's see if it's gonna play that. That should be the first one when you left click your mouse. Okay, you see that? Number 12 works. That's pretty cool. Now, an important concept here as well is, you see when I keep clicking, it only plays this first animation. It doesn't go further. And that's because when we wrote the number 12 here, we forgot to, under the next state here, or the next ability, to write 12 as well. So it goes from 0 to 12, from 12 to 1, and 1 to 3, and so on. The number you add here should be the same number as you end with here. So the start number here should be the same one as you end up with here. Now let's test it out again. Hit the first one. Yeah, I mean, keep clipping. Yeah. Pretty cool. Now that's how that works. If we go to our character, you see that he has these hitboxes. One is his right arm, right hand, left hand, and right foot. Under his components, you can see he has these attack triggers. A trigger left hand, right hand, and kick. Those are basically these trigger collider boxes. And these are attack triggers which come from the Malbers Animal Controller. So in here, you'll see that this left hand has an index of 2, right hand index 1, and the kick 3. Now, if we go look at these animations here, so right fist here, attack trigger 1. So right fist, attack trigger index 1. So this one should correspond to this right hand trigger 1. So if we go to look at left fist, this one has number 2. That means that left hand here has number 2, so that corresponds to that. And all the foot ones where he uses his kicks, so for example this one, right kick, and the jump kick has number 3 and 3. That's because the kick number 3 has number 3 in the index, and that's this one. So that's how that works. So this newly created animation you just created, in order to that, also to have that, since it's a power right hand, and right hand index is number 1, then go back to here and add an attack trigger behavior. This one, and number 1 was the right hand, so look at here, number 1 is right hand, so that correspond. Now, the attack activation, when do you want the trigger box to actually be activated? That's what this is used for. Go into animation and then look at exactly when it should be triggered. So if we say right about here, that's 0.37, and when do we want it to end? Let's just say 0.6. 0.37 and 0.6. So go back here, say 0.37, that's what we wanted to activate, and 0.6 is where we wanted to end. So we'll keep it like that, and look at his right hand. That was, you see how the box gets activated? That's pretty cool. And the way you can visually see that is that you have to go down to rotator, and then offsets, root, expand basically until you find his hand. And here you have his right hand, and if we lock that down, then you can see that the attack trigger, how it gets activated as soon as we hit, like that. Activated and close. That's how the attack trigger works. Yeah, you can also use this, for example, as playing emotes. So let's say you want this, let's say taunt here. So what you can do is that go into your actions, and let's just bring in the taunt right here. Copy this taunt. Go back here. Make sure you have action selected. Add a new one. Call it the same one, same string, taunt. And let's see the numbers here. So I don't see 60 anywhere. Let's just take a random number. We take 60. Okay. And let's say you want to use a key for this. So Malbers input, you create a new one, and we just call this taunt, and we'll say a key, and the key should be T, and we'll press it down. So this taunt here. Now go back to action, and this taunt, highlight that. Now if under input here, just Control V, that exact from the Malbers input. So when you press T, you should play this taunt. Now, again, as before, we need to make sure that the transitions are set up correctly. Take notice of what ID you gave it. So go back to action mode here. It gave the number of 60. Back to your Malbers animator tools. Highlight your animator controller. Now go over to actions and highlight your taunt animation here. And then just remember the index, it was 60. Put 60 in here and add all the transitions. So it has 60 here. Now let's test it out. If I left click, he's gonna, of course, hit. If I click multiple times, he's gonna do all the combo. But let's see what happens if I press the T key. he's doing the taunt. You see that? Pretty cool. That's how you can create some customized emotes. That's awesome. One last thing I want to show you is also these effects, which is on your animations here. So, for example, this first one, melee left. It has these different mode behaviors: attack trigger, mode behavior, effects, and weapon behavior. So this is, the weapon behavior is basically the sound here, and then the effect is the slashing you'll see. So let's go in and look at it. So with the source selected, and if I left click, you see it's gonna play both the sound and then the visual effect, the slash effect. This. Okay? If we go into the right eye again, and then this time, instead of attack ID, it's melee. So remember, in melee left here, you see that the attack trigger is 100. That's because if you go into your character controller again and look under melee here, it says ID 100. All the other ones unarmed we used before was attack ID 1, so that has here 1. But this time we are using melee, so that has number 100. And the first one we're looking at, melee left, is this left swing here. That has an index of 1. That corresponds to this transition line here. So while this is selected, you can see under audio, it's going to play the swing saw sound. There's the different sound here. You click on that. Those are the sound. Okay? So go back here. That's the weapon sound it's going to play. Now this play effect here, the slashing, it's important that you 0.3 this VFX. This 0.3 should correspond to your attack trigger. That's why 0.3, 0.3 is the same one. So we went over the attack trigger, what that is before. So basically when it's the start of your attack, when it's gonna enable the start of your attack, and that corresponds to when this effect will be enabled. And this effect here, under your internal components, you have something called effects. This number here, look at this long number here, each corresponds, if you go to effect, it corresponds to slash this one here. And this slash here has an effect component here, which is slash. That's how that works. So go back to effects, and then you have /2 and /3, depending on which angle you're using them. So all the effects is held under this effect component inside your main character. Now, same thing goes if you go and hit something. Let's see the particle effect. You see that when I hit it, it's playing this particle effect. It's related to your attack trigger. So in this case, we are hitting it with the right hand. So this one, right hand here. And if we go back here, this right hand here, it has an attack trigger. And if we look at the extras, you'll see it's gonna play this hit effect, hit particle. And so will the R kick extra hit particle. You can change this to your own custom particle hit. So it's, let's say the right hand here, that we want to use this tune fight action here. Just put it in here, and let's try to hit the horse now. Let's go to the horse, hit it. So that's another effect now. And if you kick it or use the other trigger boxes, it's gonna play the other effects. Is that? Again, same thing we did with the attack, with the unarmed. Let's try to add our own animation here. I'm gonna bring over this combo 1 melee here. Put it here. If we look at it, the animation is just like this. Now it's a little bit too slow for my liking. Speed it up to 1.8. So while we have this, copy the name, go into your character controller, and we want to be, this is a melee, so click on the melee weapon ID here, and then on the abilities, let's add it in, Control V to hit combo, let's just call it like that, and let's find another number which is not part of this. Let's just try with so 22 is not here, we'll add that. Then again, go to your Malbers animator tools, ensure that you have your character selected, select your animation, and then here choose weapon, go down to melee. While this animation is still selected, then just add them in, click them all like so. So now you have them here. Let's go and see when we want the trigger to happen. 0.45 till 52. So let's add in the attack trigger behavior, 0.45, and let's just round up to 55. That will be when it's gonna add the trigger here. And also the attack trigger should not be 1, because we're using melee, so that should be 100. You remember why? We go back to the controller here. number 1 corresponds to the attack here, the attack 1 mode, but because we're using melee, then we are supposed to use 100 here. So go back here. Now let's look at what the other thing we should put in here as well. Let's add in a sound. So let's add in a weapon behavior, and let's open up and say weapon sound, and value will be 2, and the time will be approximately 0.151. Send interrupted. Now this value 2, which you will see basically on most of them with the melee here 2, that corresponds to the weapon itself, the saw. So if we go back to the rider controller, if we go down to his inventory and say the saw, look at the saw, and then under sounds, you will see that 0, 1, 2, number 2 is the swing saw here. So it says here 0 is the draw, 1 is the store, 2 is the swing, and 3 is the hit. We're using number 2, so that corresponds to this value here. Now you might notice one mistake we made before the saw. We gave it an index of 22, right? So right now, if you look at it, the transition I'm going in is actually 1. It's actually 1. So make that 22, and the same thing with the exit here, 22. Now if we want to use that as the first one in our combination, let's go into the combo manager, and this time instead of unarmed we say melee, this one. So it's gonna play number 1 first, but we want to play 22. So write 22 here, and I'll remember if you wanted to transition to the next one, 22 as well. Let's test it out. Bring our saw. There it is. There's the sound. Cool. Now, this works. Now, how do we get that VFX effect as well? Now, let's go in to our melee. And if we look at the other ones here, it has this play effect. So, if we go to this one, and then say effect behavior, and on the list, add one. And if we in the play effect, we route the same one here, the same slash effect, and the activation time should be the same one as your activation up here, 0.45. So 0.45. Let's test this out. There it is. That's it for the animations. There's a lot more into it, guys, but you need to definitely play with it. Enemy UI health. Okay, so let's look at how we can actually implement the enemy UI health, which is included in the awesome asset here. So if we look at the attack here, they are running to me to attack me, but I don't see any health bar, and I don't see any health points going up when I take damage or give damage to them. So let's try to see how we can implement that. It's actually pretty easy. The cool thing is everything is on runtime here, so you don't have to create it yourself. So what you're gonna do is, first of all, go up to your main canvas, and you wanna go in and get a prefab that's called the enemy UI stats group, this one, and then just put it under the main canvas. It's here. So if you click on that, you get a stat monitor and you get a floating numbers. So this will use the enemy damageable, any enemies that has the damageable on, and it will also look at every enemy that has the runtime stat, this one on. Of course you can go and create your own, so I did that. If I close this, I just made a copy of this enemy health set, then enemy health set Haru, drag it up here to the runtime. So I'm using my own. Now what's important is that your tag of your enemies. So I have the Steve character here. He has a tag of animal, but I have an attack component called enemy tag as well. And also for the other enemy, he has a tag of animal and also the tag of enemy down here. So go into your enemy search health, which is a subcomponent of your internal components inside your main character. You have a trigger proxy which makes sure that when you get near your enemies, then it will ensure to actually show the UI. And here of course you have to ensure that you have this tags enemy, because that's the one of them. Go down here, both of them have the tag enemy and enemy. So that's the first thing here. Go back to the search, enemy search health here, and then under events, so on game object enter and go to exit. Here it's important of course you set your own custom one you made, that you duplicate enemy health set Haru. I'm gonna drag that up here, then runtime stat item add. The same thing here, enemy health set and this time it would be runtime set remove, like so. Everything else should be set as it is, and it's looking for these layers, enemy and animal. Let's take a quick look to see if we see any UI. Yep, there it is. We're getting UI both of them, and if we are hitting them, we're also seeing damage points. So that's pretty cool. That was just a quick one. Malbers AI. Okay guys, so let's look at the AI system here. Only the very basics. I use Emerald AI engine and Blaze AI as my AIs, but recently I have gotten into more and more into Malbers AI system here. It's a different system and a little more complex to set up. You want more advanced AIs, so I'm only scratched the surface and I can only do the basics, but I'm getting more and more interested in it, so I just want to share with you the basics here. I'm also going to show you a little more advanced AI than this basic one, and that I got some help from Malbers himself, from a Discord, so unbelievable service from him. So let's look at it. I dragged in a wolf here, and the best way you can look at these AI system is actually just learning from them. I go into the Malbers system, animations, animal controller, wolf light. Then I just brought in a wolf light here, put them on the scene. So instead of creating everything from scratch, you need to learn and do the stuff that's already built there for you. So learn from different states and decisions and tasks. So this wolf here, the way it works is that every animal controller has an AI component. If they don't, this is how they work. Basically, you create an empty game object, name it AI for example, and in this AI you'll put in these different components here. First of all, the AI control, your animal brain, and a nav mesh. The nav mesh is important because that's what you use to move around the scene with. Then the AI control itself, let's enable that. Here you can set in your waypoints, your targets in here. You can also have some events on position arrive, target arrive, and new target, and you can also debug it. So on this one we will create a waypoint system and assign it to here. The point and click, we're not going to use that, so we can disable that. The animal brain, this is the main component used to control all the different states here. So basically what you're going to see here, right now I have this enabled so you can follow along in the console what it's doing. But in here you have a transform, which is its eyes, and then you have the states. And you're going to of course be using and learning from the already created states, and from there you can modify them, make them unique, make them your own. So right now let's go ahead and create an empty game object, and we'll just call it wander area, like so. And in this we're gonna say AI wander area. Let's just maybe put it here as shown in the description. You can of course resize it as you want, and just make sure it's approximately at the same level here. What we're gonna do here, I'm just gonna duplicate it and put this duplicate inside here, and then for this one let's resize it, make it smaller, maybe like so, and then make a couple, 3 more duplicates. Make sure you have of course nav mesh baked on the system. So with this one, now go into a wolf again, and the AI component you can assign this wander area up to this target. Let's do that. For the states, let's go in and use a simple patrol. When we put in the patrol state in the current state, you saw this look gizmo became available, and that's because if you go in and click on the patrol state and open it up here, now this is the patrol. So the way a task is built up is that this is the current state, this is the state itself. Inside the state you have different tasks. These tasks are being run all the time within this task until one of these decisions are becoming true or false. So while it's running the patrol, in this case it's storing a weapon here, it's doing a patrol, and you can see it here what the task is. There are some parameters here. Patrol tribe, it's looking at the last waypoint. It's doing some change to the speed, and then it has a stance here as well. So within this state, it goes through all these tasks all the time until one of these becomes true or false. So these are decisions. So while it's doing all these tasks, it also has a decision called look for player. If we click on that, you can see look range. That corresponds to that blue. That corresponds to the blue gizmo. So right now it says look range of 15. So if I say 25, it becomes wider, bigger. So I'll say 10 for now, and it looks for main animal player. You can set this to Malbers tag, a Unity tag, a transform variable, or runtime. You have different options here, as well as setting the obstacle layers. While it looks for that, if this becomes true, meaning that it looks for the main animal player. If that becomes true, then it goes down to the attack and kill state here. This is another state. You see this is green. So this green means it's a state. The symbol here means it's a state, an AI state. And these are states in here. So the true or false will be states, and the decisions are the trees. So let's see here. If it's false, if it doesn't look, then you can just keep this blank, meaning it's going to stay in its current state, in this case patrol. So then it has this one, am I hurt? If I click that, you see that if it get damaged, then it's gonna do the damage mode here. It's gonna go in and look at the damage here, and also it's gonna say true, that if I'm damaged, it's gonna go to this find hurt me. If you click on that and open that find hurt me, now let's unblock this. Now we're in the find hurt me state. It's gonna stop up. It's gonna look for the decision. It's gonna look at the decision tree to see if the player's near. Again, the player here looks for the Malbers tags. If the player's near, it's gonna look at this range 6. If the player's near, then it's gonna go and attack. It also has a wait 2 seconds decisions before it goes to the patrol state. So that's how the states and decisions work. Let's try this out to see what it's gonna do right now. We can always highlight the AI system here, lock this, and you can see the current state. So let's look at the state, what he's doing right now. It's on the patrol. If we go over here and lock this, you can see it's doing the patrol state right now. Look at that, how cool that was. It also did the ledge grab, right? So it's doing the patrol and still doing the patrol. Let's see if I get near it. Yeah, you see it's changed to the attack state over here. And why did it do that? If we go back here, unlock this. So it starts with the patrol. Let's take it from the beginning. It starts with the patrol. It's patrolling and it's doing these tasks here, and then it's going through these decisions. If it looks for player and if it sees me, so the player, main animal player, that's me, and that's because on my animal controller I have this player selected here as well. So if it becomes true, it's going to go to the attack state. And the attack state here, you click on this and then you open up over here. This is the attack killing state, right? What it's gonna do here, it says, first of all, it's gonna move to the target, move to current target, which means the player, me. Then it's gonna play the main attack. And the main attack here is the attack 1, and it has the ability ID of minus 99, which means it's gonna play randomize through all these attacks. So if we go into the wolf here, into the animal, and then into modes, you can see attack ID 1 here. It's gonna play these, and because it sets to negative 99, it's just gonna randomize between these. It's gonna look at the target's heads while it's doing all this. So again, while it's running through all these tasks within this attack state, it's also gonna look at these decisions. It's target on site look decision. It's gonna look at for my transform hook I have set down here, and if it's false, if it can't find me, then it's gonna go back to the patrol state. If I'm dead here, if that becomes true, is target death, then it's gonna go to patrol state as well. Okay, so that's pretty simple. Now let's look at another more advanced setup here. So this time I added in another wolf AI, and it's an enemy. And for this one, I just added in the new wander area up to this AI control, disabled the point click as before. I gave it an enemy tag here because I'm using the UI system so I can see its health bar. And here you can see I have made an extension to this, duplicated the patrol and just renamed it to wolf. So this way I will differentiate and know it's my own modified one. So in this case here, let's look at the setup. We're going to the patrol here. Just as before, it's gonna go in and do the patrolling, and it's gonna move to next target, meaning it's gonna look at the target's waypoints. While it's doing that, it's going into through this decision as well. So look for player again, main animal player. If it finds me, if it sees me, then it's gonna play this attack and kill wolf bolt. So again, I just modified the other attack state, and if it goes into this, so instead of it's gonna do instead of playing attack 1, I wanted to actually shoot some bolts at me, the fire bolts. So what it's gonna do is it only have 3 tasks in here. The first one, it says stop, so it's gonna stop. The next one says aim to my head, and it's gonna look here at the transform and the chest hook. That's a transform hook I have on my player. then it's gonna do this play mode task. So this is a special task where I can go in and set a mode ID here. And this one I just set to attack 2. And this is the one I got help from Malbers INPUT. Thank you very much for that. So here you set this to attack 2. And I'm gonna play forever on this one. And if we go to the actual wolf, you can see attack 2 here is the bolt, attack 1 is the main attacks here, is the close combat. So I want to shoot the bolts at me. And when you're doing that, while you have this selected attack 2, you have to go down and say released and enable this. If you don't enable this, then it's just gonna do the charging, where it's gonna hold the bolt inside the mouth but never shoots. So that's pretty important you do this step here. So back to the wolf here. While it does these tasks, it's also gonna look if I am near. So I set up if my player gets near it. I set it here to look range at 6. If I get near the wolf, then it's gonna go to attack and kill wolf state, meaning then it's gonna go into this state here I set up, and in this state here I'm using actually the plain main target attack 1, meaning it's gonna go in and do the normal attack close combat. So while it does these here during this attack here, it's gonna look for these 2 decisions. Is target on sight? If true, do nothing, meaning staying in the attack. But if I'm out of sight, meaning I'm out of sight here, in this case it's above 15. If I'm out of sight of 15 units, then it's gonna go back to the patrol state here. And then the same here, if I'm dead, it's gonna go back to patrol again. Pay attention that I'm using these wolf states here. So this is my own modified states again. When you do all these duplicates, you tend to remember that the next state you copied still have the decisions from the previous one. So you need to change everything when you do this. Okay, so let's test this. It should do this patrol, and when it sees me, it should fire bolts at me. Like so. And if I get too close to it, it should start the attack, like you see here. So now it goes into attack. So if we go over and look at the attack here, click on this, open this. So right now it's doing all these tasks here. It's playing the main attack here, right? And it's aiming for me. So if I go up away from the 15 of units here, as I said before, these here, then it's gonna turn to false and it's gonna go back to patrol wolf. If I am dead, it's gonna go to patrol wolf as well. So let's see if we can get away from it. Like so, go back to patrol. Now let's see if we can get it to actually shoot at me again. Yeah, this is pretty cool. And I'm dead. Okay, that's it for this short introduction to the AI. I will definitely do some more tutorials on that. I hope you find it useful. Please leave a like and a subscribe if you're not already subscribed. This concludes my series into introduction to the Malbers Animal Controller. As I said from the beginning, that it was more a reference to myself, but I figured out that maybe others might find this useful as well, so I started recording these basic setups that I wanted. So everything from animations, replacing your weapon, replacing your character, and so on. So I just made the tool. So in short, if you haven't seen those, go back and watch the whole series. Thank you so much, guys, for this one. See you on the next one. Bye.